Unbelievable chaos this week. I know I look calm. Unbelievable chaos. And a smart life tip, if you live your life in chaos, if you allow it, if you nurture it, if you snuggle with it, you're going to get in trouble. My operation is pretty smooth. Okay, we don't embrace chaos and we put it out very quickly because it just gets worse and worse and worse. But this was beyond my control. So let me walk you through it because it's very interesting. So we were supposed to have an interview with President Trump on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. And those things take a while to set up. And the president watches the No Spin News every night now. He sent me a text at 2 a.m. This morning, complimenting me on my talking points memo about the comparison between JFK and Donald Trump and how they both had to use the National Guard to enforce federal law. And it's just grounded in history. There's no partisan stuff about it. And I'm going to do that on our YouTube channel. I'm going to give you a little bit more on it. But I did that yesterday. If you're a premium concierge member, you got a transcript, you should get one. Because the argument that I made is going to be used in the Supreme Court. And it's all very complimentary to us. Okay? And I was very pleased to get the text at 2 a.m. I wasn't up, but then I got up a little bit later to go to the head. And I just, I shouldn't do that, but I just hit it and there was the text. And I appreciated that from President Trump. But anyway, the interview that was supposed to do on Tuesday in the White House is now out because it looks like the president's going to go to the Middle East on Sunday. That could, maybe won't happen, but because that's in play, then all of his other obligations have been canceled, including the interview with him, which is really too bad. I got a lot of questions. And then I had to make an adjustment on it because it was the lead to the Three Americans show, which is next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, at the Kennedy Center in D.C. And if you want to see us, Stephen A. Smith, Chris Cuomo, and me, let's go to the News Nation websites and they'll guide you in. Okay? But that's going to be simulcast on CW, on Syria. I mean, it's enormous. So my plan was interview the president on tape, kick off the Three American show with that, and then boom. But now we have to reconfigure. This is life in the fast lane, and this is the fastest lane there is, what I'm doing, okay? So we're still going to have a great 2-hour Three Americans program at the Kennedy Center. It's going to be very interesting. I'll be on Cuomo on News Nation tonight at 8 to talk about it. The Three American show is also at 8. Okay, so that's this coming Wednesday. Tonight at 8, I'll be on Cuomo and all of that. So if I collapse during this broadcast, you'll understand why. All right, let's get to it. Talking points memo, Senate votes down a resolution to stop Trump's attack on drug vessels in the Caribbean. Okay. Why? Why would you do that? Now, the resolution failed, but not by much. Not by much. The vote was 51 for failure. We're not going to do it to 48. Yeah, let's stop them. A number of politicians, I mean, this is pretty standard. Rand Paul, what are you going to do? Senator from Kentucky, he voted for the resolution to stop the attacks. Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, she's not a Republican. You guys up there, I'm not telling you to vote for, but Senator Murkowski is not a Republican. I don't think she's a Democrat either. I don't know what she is, but she's certainly not a Republican. And then Fetterman, the Democrat from Pennsylvania, he voted to allow the president continue to attack the drug crafts. Now, the president has the authority because he declared the drug cartels in Venezuela, which are doing all this, as terrorists. terror groups. You remember after 9/11, Bush the younger said, look, I got to have the authority to attack these Al-Qaedas and ISIS and everybody else. I can't go to Congress every 2 minutes to get permission to attack these people. So if we designate them terrorists, we can attack them. That's exactly the law. So this is just another demonstration of hate Trump. That's what this is. So you will not be surprised that the two people heading this are Senator Adam Schiff and Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia. They hate Trump. They're doing everything they can to stop everything Trump wants to do. Okay. If you think that's in benefit of the United States, then you're entitled to your opinion, but you're a moron. I'm sorry to be blunt. So if I'm trying to stop more than 100,000 deaths a year in this country, and it's 3 times that with all the health stuff that comes from taking narcotics, but trying to stop that, and I have the authority to use the military against the drug smugglers, I do. Right? I do. Now, the hate Trump people, the Democrats go, oh, we don't have any proof. Well, yeah, you do. Number one, the Dominican Republic found some of the debris from one of these blown up boats. Say there's all this cocaine floating around. And number two, why would anybody bother to attack some guy out fishing? You know, come on. So we have very good intel inside Venezuela. And they know when these boats are going out. And that's what's happening. All right, so I'm going to play you Adam Schiff. He's probably Trump's biggest enemy. Roll the tape.
It is hard to describe just how extraordinary and dangerous this action is and the kind of precedent that it sets. Because there are lots of ships carrying narcotics, tragically a lot of them headed for the United States, many headed for Caribbean countries, and our practice has always been to interdict those ships.
And how did that work out there, Senator, the interdiction thing? How did that work out under Biden? Let's get specific. How did it work out, the interdicting the ships? That worked out pretty well? Well, according to Border Patrol, Biden's last year, 23-24, record amount of fentanyl seized, which means a record amount was coming over, 20,000 pounds. Kill 20 million people easy. Okay, so how did that work out, that interdiction? Let's go all the way back, okay, to Vietnam. Never been a shortage of narcotics in America. Never. You want heroin, you want cocaine, methamphetamine, hey. You go out, you find out where the dealer is, you buy the deal. Never a shortage. Well, that interdiction, that was working pretty well, wasn't it? Now, the fact that the United States is now blowing drug boats out of the water, that is an inhibitor. Okay? So if you're on that boat, you go, oh. That's why Maduro, the leader of Venezuela, who's up to here in the narcotics, okay, he's getting paid tens of millions of dollars, in my opinion. I can't prove it, but it's a narco state, Venezuela. That's why he doesn't want this. This is his money. So Schiff is, look, I got no respect for the man. I'm sorry. And there are Republican senators I don't respect either. Murkowski. Okay, so it's not a partisan play. But he's like, if Trump wants it, I don't want it. And that's a memo. Cold and flu season coming on up. We all know it. And it really is nothing to take lightly. So when people start getting sick all across the country, medications disappear. Everybody wants it at the same time. So it's very, very smart to have a pharmacy you can count on, like All Family Pharmacy. Right now, they're helping Americans get ahead of the curve with 10% off antibiotics, antivirals, other essentials. You know how important it is to have the right meds when you get sick, particularly when your kids get sick. You don't want to be going into the doctor's office, spending all the time. You want to have them at your home. So if you have a few months' supply, you don't have to worry. And that's what we're doing here. If you believe in medical freedom, okay, and taking care of your family, as I do, this is the pharmacy for you. Please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Bill. Use code BILL10 to save 10%. Joining us now from Florida is a constitutional attorney. Now, this guy has been around. Bruce Fein was general counsel of the FCC under President Reagan, participated in the drafting of articles of impeachment against Nixon and Bill Clinton. Wow. Quite the resume, counselor.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Well, it's okay. I'm telling the truth. We only get the best guests on this program. All right, so am I reading this wrong, that the Trump administration probably will win this in the Supreme Court?
I think right now the jury is out, but let me add a couple of footnotes to your opening observations. The power to utilize the military to enforce the law is not in the Constitution. It's in congressional statutes. Shays' Rebellion actually occurred before the Constitution in 1786, but those are small things. At present, we do know that there's a statute. At least now, President Trump has refrained from invoking. It's called the Insurrection Act of 1807. It was urged by some to be utilized with regard to many of the protests that surfaced after George Floyd killing, but President Trump, I think he was concerned that the military wasn't completely supportive of invoking the Insurrection Act that says, in times when there's sufficient chaos and disruption that the enforcement of federal laws is severely compromised, he can utilize the military. It is what's called an exception to the Posse Comitatus Act of 1877, which says ordinarily you can't use the military to enforce civilian law unless Congress by statute creates an exception.
Okay, let me stop you there. Let me push back. So the Shays' Rebellion came under the Articles of Confederation, which were then incorporated into the U.S. Constitution. In 1871, U.S. Grant ordered federal troops to South Carolina without congressional approval to put down a Ku Klux Klan. It was like a war. And the federal troops went in, and it was violent shooting, all kinds of stuff. Okay? Then the city of New Orleans and others were taken over by the federal government because they would not ensure public safety. You'll remember that. There were actually law enforcement agents from New York City that were appointed to run the New Orleans Police Department with federal oversight. So you're correct in your interpretation, but there is that clause that there are exceptions to the Posse Comitatus law when the public or federal facilities or people are deemed to be in danger, correct?
Well, I mean, I think I'd never like to be disputatious, but I add a little bit of context here. Remember, those invocations by President Grant were during Reconstruction, where there are military governments running all of the South. Reconstruction did not end until at least 1877.
Yeah, but it didn't matter because the South Carolinian authorities had their own elected officials, and they would not deal with the Ku Klux Klan. That's why Grant wrote the order.
Yeah, right. But that was before the Posse Comitatus Act, and
it was 6 years before.
It was based upon Reconstruction law. But I'm just saying, Bill, there's nothing in the express language of the Constitution that addresses this issue. It does say in Article 1, Section 9, that Congress may suspend the writ of habeas corpus and you could impose martial law, so to speak. But that's Congress, not the executive branch. And here, at least at present, Mr. Trump is not Congress to do anything, including
expand. You would say that the Trump lawyers are going to raise the Insurrection Act. That would be the way to go, correct?
If they want to,
well, they're going to have to defend it.
Yes.
They're going to have to.
No, I think that is correct, and say that was contemplated during the George Floyd demonstrations, many of which erupted into violence. But Trump decided, for his own reasons, not to invoke the Insurrection Act. But I underscore the importance, in my mind, is always process over personalities. That's what the process is, and Congress can expand the instances in which a president can use the military by statute, but it has to amend the law and make it as possible it can be justified. And the law is pretty clear, Bill, that the dividing line between when we have ordinary law enforcement and these extraordinary occasions when the president can intercede is basically when the court system has broken down. We know that courts are there because people do violate the law from time to time. There are massive violations during Prohibition.
Okay, but let me stop you there. Sanctuary cities defy the law.
Yeah.
Chicago and Portland are sanctuary cities. So that, go ahead.
It's more complicated, Bill, for this reason, and I don't want to sound like a lawyer.
No, just shoot it. Go ahead.
This is the U.S. Supreme Court, and it arose with regard to gun control. And the Supreme Court held you cannot coerce state authorities to enforce federal law, right? Immigration law is federal law. It's exclusively entrusted to Congress and the executive in Article 1, Section 8. And the courts have held that you cannot compel a state to assist in immigration enforcement. A state may choose to cooperate, fair enough, right? And the federal government can utilize as many ICE agents they want to enforce federal law. So it's a little bit misleading to say you may disagree with the decision of a state to say we don't want to help enforce the law.
But
remember, help is different than
what was the difference
interfere.
then? What would be the difference then? You can flood the zone with ICE agents, but why not National Guard? It's the same protective apparatus. Look, when the feds took over, you were around. You were around. Wait a minute.
Okay.
You were around when the federal government took over the city of New Orleans Police Department. Okay? Yeah. They did it citing public safety, that the police department in New Orleans, the state of Louisiana, was not able to protect the citizenry. The same law that was used to send the Guard into LA when there were the riots, that when the police chief of Los Angeles said, we can't handle this, and clearly said it, and our people are in danger, bang, the Guard went in, and the courts allowed them to go in, correct?
Yes, and that's correct. And the reason was because the state authorities were saying, we cannot enforce the law.
Just the police chief. The governor wouldn't. The governor repudiated it, and so did the legislature.
He wasn't contradicted. The states weren't. I mean, the governor wasn't contradicting that. Here we have a situation which is a little more complex, where the governors are saying we can handle this issue. We don't need assistance, and at least at present, it doesn't appear as though the federal officials being sent in are confined to simply enforcing the immigration laws, which they're entitled to do. And
all right, let me challenge again.
As many agents as he wishes.
If you have a chief of patrol sending out a message to cops, do not protect ICE agents, as you have in Chicago, that seems to me to be all you need to send in National Guard to protect the ICE agents.
Well, I agree with that, and the National Guard could go in and protect the ICE agents for sure, just like he can send in the Guard to protect federal buildings, including ICE buildings, if they're attacked. I have no doubt about that. I think some of the litigation, Bill, is because some of the federal interveners are going beyond simply enforcing the immigration laws and protecting ICE agents, although they're doing that as well. But I do not, and if it comes to the U.S. Supreme Court, I have no doubt that with regard to federal officials enforcing federal law, that the Supreme Court will say Trump, under existing statutes, can dispose of the National Guard, the military, to accomplish that function. To the extent there's a dispute, it's whether they can go beyond the federal functions and enforce the law more generally.
Okay, that seems to be logical. But, you know, the National Guard isn't making any arrests in D.C. where it's posted and wouldn't make any arrests in Portland or Chicago. They're there to contain the violence, and the arrests are being made by federal agents primarily. You know that. The Guard hasn't made any arrests. So that would take that issue away from the judges that are trying to stay it.
Well, it's oftentimes the law is very complicated and lawyers draw lines that maybe are mysterious to lay people. But even if they're not making arrests, the statute says that you can be summoned to protect federal buildings, federal officers in the discharge of federal responsibilities. But it doesn't say, as long as you don't make arrests, you can go ahead and police for other purposes, at least if the state officials don't want to.
All
Now,
right.
my view is that the immigration is the chief issue. Why are you going? And if you're asking for an electoral mandate, Trump did get a mandate with regard to immigration, but I don't think he got a mandate for every other law.
Right. Well,
That's on.
immigration, certainly in Chicago, I think that's the property in Portland, Oregon, that'll absurd. But I'm going to predict here, Counselor, that the Supreme Court will allow the guard to go in, and basically about what you said. But I don't know whether they're going to be that specific in spelling out exactly what the guard can and can't do. That would be unusual for the court to do that. Last word.
No, it wouldn't. I study the court, read a lot of their opinions. No, sometimes they can be very precise. You can go this far, but no further. They don't have to do that. After all, they're the final word, right? But it wouldn't be unique in the annals of Supreme Court.
No, but this is a political court.
This is what you need to do.
This is a political court. And I don't know whether it's going to be 6-3 or 5-4. It might be 5-4. But I think they're going to give Trump the authority to do this because they understand that the locals and states are undermining the federal government here. That's how I see it.
And I want to make one thing clear, Bill. I do think it becomes constitutionally suspect for a state to say we're not going to help or protect ICE agents, but others we will protect, because the U.S. Supreme Court has also said you can't single out federal operations for discrimination. Once you have state authorities out there, you can't, insofar as they're discharging their duties, say we'll protect everything except the feds. That doesn't work. The Supreme Court has said it's got to be even-handed if you have the authority at all.
All right. You think I should take the bar exam, Counselor? That was a good discussion. I appreciate your expertise. And we'll have you back after they rule, because they're going to have to rule fast on this. So thank you very much, Counselor. We appreciate it. Let's face it, the U.S. economy is under stress. National debt rising, trade war shaking the markets. And meanwhile, China is dumping the dollar and stockpiling gold. That's why I protected my savings with physical gold and silver through the only dealer I trust, American Hartford Gold. And you can do this. Get precious metals delivered to your door or place in a tax-advantaged gold IRA. They'll even help you roll over your existing IRA or 401k, tax and penalty free. With billions in precious metals delivered, thousands of 5-star reviews, and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, you can trust American Hartford Gold as I do. Please call 866-501-5201 or text BILL to 65532. Again, that's 866-501-5201 or text BILL to 65532. The American dream is changing. Forget the white picket fence. Today it's about getting out of debt. If rising prices and credit card bills are weighing you down, there is hope. Done with debt. They don't offer loans or push bankruptcy. Their expert negotiators go straight to your creditors, cutting what you owe, wiping out interest, eliminating penalties. They fight until your debt is gone. Most clients see more money in their pocket the first month. You've worked too hard to let debt win. With Done With Debt, freedom is possible. Please visit donewithdebt.com. Talk with one of their experts, completely free. But some of their solutions are time sensitive, so don't wait. Please go to donewithdebt.com. Again, donewithdebt.com. So this crazy freedom of speech thing we talked about with Jane Fonda have been totally distorted by the media, as we have proven here. The Federal Communications Commission, FCC, only has jurisdiction over the 3 networks. And then they have a little bit public broadcasting oversight too. But since there's no more money going to public broadcasting, that's gone. So NBC, ABC, CBS. Public interest is this, quote, regulates public airways use and requires licensees to serve the public interest, convenience, and necessity by addressing local community needs. Okay, does Colbert and Kimmel hating Trump every night address local community needs? No, it doesn't. They're spout propaganda. It's not helping the local communities. Okay, but that's it. There's no other federal oversight over speech. But if any media hurts you, you can do what Nick Sandmann did. Remember Nick Sandmann? He was down in D.C. and there was a demonstration. Nick was a student at Covington Catholic High School in Kentucky, and they branded him on CNN and others as a racist. And Nick sued, and he settled with CNN. Okay. He settled with the Washington Post and he settled with NBC. That means he got money, substantial money, from all three. So that made Nick Sandmann rich. That's the recourse you have with the corrupt media. You can bring them into court. But the government does not have sway over freedom of speech. Someone tell Jane Fonda. Thank you for watching me, Bill O'Reilly, No Spin News. We'll have a good Sunday column for you, working on it right now. I'll see you again on Monday. Thank you for watching. To view full episodes of the No Spin News anytime, sign up to become a BillO'Reilly.com premium or concierge member today.